Hey everybody, this is Chapter 5, Section 4. Title is Point Slope Form, starts on page 313. Now, let's say for example you needed to travel. If somebody gave you a car, you probably wouldn't go to Hawaii with it. It'd be kind of hard to drive there. If somebody gave you a boat, you probably wouldn't take it on the highway. So what method you use depends on what you're given. Okay? In these math problems, we said in section 3 that there's 3 different forms for writing an equation. Which one you choose depends on what information they give you. If they give you a y-intercept and a slope, you'll use slope-intercept forms from section 3. Today's is called point-slope form. So if they give you a point and the slope, you will use point-slope form. You can use the slope of a line and any point on that line to write and graph an equation of the line. In this section, that point does not have to be the y-intercept. It can be any point on the entire line. We'll see how that's different here in a second. Point-slope form looks like this. Y minus y1 equals slope, or m, parentheses, x minus x1. This is what point-slope form looks like. Okay. Now, what does all this stuff mean? M is still slope. Okay. X1, Y1 is an ordered pair or a point that they give you. So if they give you a point, you're going to plug numbers in for Y1 and X1. Okay. We already talked about slope. In slope-intercept form, there's always a y and an x in your final answer. The same thing is true in this section. There's always a y and there's always an x in your final answer. You plug in the other 3 things, the slope and the x and the y from the ordered pair that they give you. Again, be careful with negative signs. When you're plugging in negative numbers and there's a subtraction sign next to it, don't forget what you're supposed to do there. Notice, if you compare this equation with the one from section 3, slope-intercept form always has the y by itself. It was y equals and then a whole bunch of stuff. Point-slope form has something with the y. It's y minus y1, or y minus a number of some sort. And it has parentheses in it. This is the only equation that we're going to use in this chapter that has parentheses in it. So that's another way that you can tell that it's point-slope form. Right, how do we use this thing? A line passes through the point, 8, negative 4, has a slope of 2/3. What is an equation in point-slope form of the line? So, point-slope form, y minus y1 equals m, parentheses, x minus x1. So, they give us a point, which is an x and a y, right? X and y go in for x1 and y1. So, y minus the y value it gave me, which is negative 4, equals the slope, 2/3, x minus the x value, which was 8. Okay. Now, in algebra, we're not allowed to have 2 signs next to each other, so these change to plus, so we can write our answer. Y plus 4 equals 2/3 x minus 8. That's what my equation would be in point-slope form. Okay? Just like in the last section, they gave you the slope and the y-intercept, you plug both of them in. Here, they give you a point and a slope, and you plug both of those in. Practice problem for you. When you graph using slope-intercept form, yesterday we talked about how graphing yesterday was easier than when we used table of values in chapter 4. When you graph using slope-intercept form, you graph the y-intercept first, then use the slope to count boxes to find the next point. That's what we did in the last section, in section 3. When you graph using point-slope form, graph the point first, then use slope. Same type of thing as we did yesterday. In section 3, graph the y-intercept first, then use slope. Here, graph the point first, then use slope. It's a very similar process. What is the graph of this equation? Okay. First thing I want you to do, just so I make sure that I know you know what you're talking about, tell me what the point is over here. Okay, so the point that's in this equation, remember, this is supposed to be x minus something. So what has to go inside that parentheses to make it x plus 4? Well, if I put two negative signs together, I get a plus. So there's really a negative 4 here. X minus a negative 4 gives me a positive 4 right there because of the two negative signs next to each other. Another way you can think of it is when you have point-slope form, the point is always the opposite of what's there. So this is a positive 4. So what I write down for my x value is negative 4. This is a negative 7. So what I write down for my y value is positive 7. Okay. The slope, negative 4/5. Remember, negative means down 4. Positive on the bottom means right 5. Okay. Graph my point first, negative 4, 7. There's negative 4, 7. And the slope, that's my directions, that's my roadmap. It tells me to go down 4 and to the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my next dot. Do it again just to double check. 1, 2, 3, 4 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over. And then I connect. So, graph your point first, then use your slope to figure out where your next dot or two are supposed to go. Okay? The trick here, people are going to forget that you need to use the opposite of what's there when you're trying to figure out what your point is. Here's one for you, and another one for you. You can write the equation of a line if you're given any 2 points on that line. We did this yesterday. It was the one that most people had the questions about at the beginning of class. Same type of idea. Here's what we're going to do. First, use the 2 points to calculate slope, same as yesterday. Use the slope and one of the points to write an equation in point-slope form. You can use either one. It doesn't matter which one you choose. Okay. What is an equation in point-slope form of the line that passes through these 2 points? Now, there's 2 possible answers for this. You would only need to give me one of them, but I'm going to go through both so you can see it. Okay. So first, I have to figure out the slope. So x1, y1, x2, y2. And I'm going to use the slope formula. y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. Plug some numbers in. y2 is 4. y1 is negative 2. Don't forget my subtraction sign and the negative sign. x2 is 2. x1 is negative 1. Again, don't forget both of those negative signs. 2 negatives together make a positive, so that becomes 6. Minus a negative 1 is the same thing as adding 1, so that's a 3. So my slope is 2. Okay. Now, point-slope form. Y minus y1 equals slope x minus x1. I can plug in either point that I want. Again, you don't have to do one of these, but I'm going to show you both. So I'm going to use the first ordered pair that I had over here. Y minus the y value, which is negative 2. Slope was 2. X minus the x value, which was negative 1. Now I need to clean that up a little bit, do a little algebra. Those turn into pluses, so I get y plus 2. These turn into pluses, so I get x plus 1. That's one of my possible answers. That's if I plugged in the first ordered pair. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to plug in the second ordered pair. So y minus the y value, which was 4. Slope is 2. X minus the x value, which was a 2. No algebra I need to do there, so there's my other possible answer. So when you're writing something in point-slope form, if they give you two different points, there's two different possible answers you could have. Okay, and they're both right there. Okay, this is the same type of problem we just did. This one's got a graph, so you have to tell me what the points are first. So figure out what the 2 points are here and here. Calculate the slope, and then write an equation. Make sure it's in point-slope form. Okay, and remember, you can have two different answers for this. You only need to give me one of them. We can check that one in class to make sure that one of your answers is the correct one. Next, what is an equation in point-slope form of the line that passes through these 2 points? Now, math teachers don't like it when there's two different possible answers. So a lot of times what they do is they have you write an equation in point-slope form first, because there's two different answers you could get for that, like we saw in example 3. Then they have you write it in slope-intercept form, because there's only one possible answer you can have in slope-intercept form. And I'll show you how you get from the two different answers to only one. Okay, so this one, it's the same thing we just did. We're just adding a step or two at the end. Okay, so we're going to figure out slope. x1, y1, x2, y2. Figure out my slope. y2 is a 1. y1 is 4. x2 is negative 1. x1 is 1. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. Negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. And I get that my slope is positive 3/2. Okay? Don't forget, I'm starting with point-slope form. So I'll write that down again for you. Okay, remember, there's two equations I can get at this point. So I'm going to do both of them just so you can see it. Y minus one of my y values. I'll use this ordered pair first. Y minus 4, because that's what my y is. Slope is 3/2. X minus 1, because that's what my y value is up in that ordered pair. Okay. Now I'm going to write the other one using the second ordered pair they gave me. Again, you only need to do one of these, but I'm just making sure you understand. Y minus the y value, which is 1, equals slope x minus the x value, which is negative 1. Clean that up a little bit. Okay. So there's the two point-slope equations that I could have for my answer. Now, like I said, math teachers don't like it when there's two different answers that it could be. So if I take both of these and turn them into slope-intercept form, I should get the same answer. Okay, remember, slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. Now, the process that you use to turn it into slope-intercept form. First, you have to distribute. Then you have to get rid of the number that's next to y. Those are your two steps. So I'm going to start with this one on the left here. 3/2 times x is 3/2 x. 3/2 times negative 1 is negative 3/2. The other side stays the same. Remember, we said earlier, slope-intercept form is when the y is by itself. So now I have to get this y by itself. Y is being subtracted by 4, so I need to add 4 to both sides. I know we're going to have to do math with fractions. 4 minus 3/2. 3/2 is the same thing as 1.5. So 4 minus 1 is 3, minus another half is 2.5. That's what my equation would be in slope-intercept form. I'm going to do the same thing to the one on the right-hand side, and I should get the exact same answer. Distribute 3/2 x plus 3/2. Get y by itself, so I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Y equals 3/2 x. 3/2 plus 1. 3/2 is really 1.5. 1.5 plus another 1 is 2.5. So if they ask you to start with a point slope form and turn it into slope intercept, that's because they want to get it. See how these two are the same? They don't want to have to worry about having two different answers. If they make you turn it into slope intercept form, there's only one thing that could be the correct answer. That's why they make you do that. There's one for you. Don't forget about the steps that we did. And that's it for this section. Questions, comments, concerns? Go ahead and share those in class, and then we'll be ready to take the quiz.